The reality is you can't stop these tragedies with a ban. You have to change the way we protect our children. I would encourage the other side of the aisle to co-sponsor my bill to change the default setting here in this country, which makes it illegal to even be near a school and have a firearm, which makes it harder for states to set policies that would save our children. And all it does is make felons of law-abiding gun owners.
People are so sick and tired of where our priorities are. People are sick and tired of having the National Rifle Association and all their money dictate what our policy should be on guns. They don't care about all the people that have died and have been murdered in this country. By the way, other countries have similar challenges and problems that we do. They don't have the level of gun violence. They don't have massacres on a regular basis. And this is what we get. Enough. Is this really the best we can do with all the challenges that we face in this country and around the world? Meanwhile, our constituents are begging us, they're pleading with us to do something about gun violence in this country. And what do Republicans do? How do they respond? By bringing to the floor a bill that makes it easier for the next mass shooter to kill more people. It is sick. 9 people outside a bar in Dayton in 2019. 10 people, including a police officer at a grocery store in Boulder in 2021. 5 people in an LGBTQ nightclub in Colorado Springs in 2022. 6 people, including children, at a school in Nashville just a few months ago. What do they all have in common? They were all killed by mass shooters who used stabilizing braces. And by the way, the ATF rule that the Republicans are trying to overturn, contrary to what they say, doesn't even make stabilizing braces illegal. It doesn't ban them. All it does is it says that you need to register braces because they are used in a lot of mass shootings. But for Republicans, any amount of common sense gun safety regulation is too much. Why? Why? Because the NRA says so. Our kids are being slaughtered, for God's sake. Does anyone care? Do my Republican colleagues care at all that America's parents stay up wondering whether our kids will be the next one shot at a school or at a mall or at a movie theater or at their own graduation? People come up to me all the time and they ask me, why can't Democrats and Republicans just work together? I tell them I wish we could. There was a time when we did. I say to them, go online and Google the bills that Republicans are bringing to the floor and ask yourself why Republicans oppose background checks on a gun accessory that mass shooters use to kill people. Ask yourself if it's right that this bill was introduced by a Republican member of Congress, and you got to love this, who owns a gun store and makes millions of dollars by selling guns and these types of gun accessories that mass shooters use to kill people. Ask yourself if it makes sense that the only reason this bill is even on the floor is because Speaker McCarthy isn't even in charge of the House schedule anymore. The far, far, far right is. If you want to know why we can't have real action when it comes to gun safety, follow the money. Follow the money. In the last decade, the NRA has spent more than $100 million to help elect Republicans who will support their extreme agenda. Follow the money. It's no surprise that the far right is demanding this bill, but it's a shame. How many more mass shootings need to happen? How many more kids need to die before my Republican colleagues pull their heads out of the sand and realize that the NRA's blood money is not worth the damage that is being done to our country? I wish I were wrong, Mr. Speaker, but sadly the cowardice and the moral bankruptcy on the other side of the aisle seems to know no bounds. Between the new concept of power sharing in the House, which really just means that the Speaker is going to have to keep a tiny minority of extremist members happy for the House to be able to function, and the fact that their party's front runner for the 2024 presidential election is being indicted with very serious charges for the second time this afternoon, I'm sorry to say that the Republican Party is a train wreck, and it doesn't bode well for what's to come. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I reserve my time.
And with respect to the solution to the tragic school shootings, some states have taken it upon themselves to allow qualified teachers and staff to carry firearms. Imagine that. They're protected, the children are protected by firearms the same way we're protected here. Why do we sit here and say, oh, we got to do something, and when we sit behind protection and the children aren't?
And Mr. Speaker, before I yield to our next speaker, I just have to say, we heard a lot of words from the gentleman and from other Republicans who speak on these issues. But you know what we don't hear? Any empathy, for the families who have lost loved ones to gun violence. I mean, I began my opening remarks by citing examples of how this accessory was used in mass shootings. Children, mothers, fathers, grandmothers, grandfathers lost their lives, were murdered. Police were murdered. Not even any empathy, no acknowledgement that this is a terrible tragedy. Yeah, I mean, all we hear about is don't take away my toys. Don't interfere with my hobby. You can't register any of these things.